Hello, I'm Robin and welcome to Molten Modular. Today we're looking at the Neo Trinity from Bastl Instruments. It's kind of a crazy infusion of modulation, of creativity, of envelopes, of LFOs, but also of notes, of rhythms, of pulses, of patterns. It can run an entire show, if you let it, or it can just be a useful background bit of modulation. It has 6 channels thrown around in this very 4-channel looking interface. It draws upon the hot black daziato method of panel design, coupled with the illusion of 1,000 green LEDs glowing, pulsing, inviting you into what is a bit of a disco party. It's slightly confusing and frustrating. Its feng shui of design is all over the place. You feel wrong-footed, as well as at the same time being pulled into this awesomely good time. You can run your drums, you can run your melodies, you can move stuff all over the place while all the time recording what it is that you do, automating what it is that you can do. It's many-faceted, has many features, and in some ways is probably a bit overstuffed. But before we get into it, here's just a very quick snapshot of how this little thing can run your rack. The Neo Trinity then is based upon the original CV Trinity that Bastl Instruments did a millennia ago, and that was a big, broad, brash module that recorded CV, did LFOs and envelopes, very much in the same way that this does. The Neo Trinity is refined, is stylish, but stylish to the point where you're going, what the heck is going on in here? There are some design decisions that just make you scratch your head a little bit while you fumble around braille-like, trying to navigate, trying to find, trying to muscle memory your way into the various shortcut presses and holds you need to access deeper levels of understanding. So it's one of those. It has the ability to be a tremendous amount of fun, while at the same time forcing you to fiddle your way through a little bit of a challenging interface. But what I think I've probably found in having this for quite a while now is that the fun factor, the usefulness, the utility and feature set of this thing far outstrip the fiddly faffling about you have to do to make it do what it can do. And once you get the hang of it, it's so fast, it's so fluid that you won't be without it. I mean, it's a keeper without any doubt. So let me bring you in a bit closer and we'll have a focus on it, see if we can work out exactly what makes it tick. So here we have the Bastl Neo Trinity, looking every bit like a 4-channel device. It is in fact a 6-channel device. 6 channels of modulation, 6 channels of LFOs, of envelopes, of recordable automation. Everything is automatable, pretty much. Triggerable, resetterable, drawable, waveable, rateable, movable, recordable, and so on. But it's not 4 channels, it's 6, because it goes around the corner, which drives me nuts. You got 4 channels, lovely 4 channels. Oh, 5, 6 down here. Down here? What are they doing down here? I mean, honestly, it could just be, you know, a little bit wider, and then you got 6 in a row, and that would make my brain really, really happy with the order of it. But as it is, no, we're going to go around the corner, and we're just going to have to deal with it. And so you're going to have to hang on to yourself as we navigate our way through the crazy bend of the Neo Trinity. Let's put that aside. So the sort of the quick demo, just to show what all the bits do, is probably where we'll start, and then we'll look into everything into a little bit more detail. So just to give you an overview, I'm going to plug channel A into my scope, into the filter cutoff, so that we can experience both visually and aurally what it is that's happening. So there's our oscillator. So I'm going to select channel A by pressing on it, and we can see that that is lit. You can just about see that that is lit. And then we refer to our modes in the middle, where you've got LFO, you've got envelope, or you've got recordable CV, essentially. Let's stick it in LFO. Let's stick this in here. We've got an LFO. Super. In envelope mode, nothing happens until you trigger it using the magic buttons here at the bottom, which I'll explain more later. That's envelopes. And then in control voltage mode, your knob just becomes voltage. And voltage, which of course can be recorded. And that absolutely is the point, because everything can be recorded. Or in envelope mode. And that, in essence, is what the Neo Trinity is about. It's a modulation device that kicks out LFOs, envelopes, or just control voltage, which you can record, either rate changes, evolution changes, triggering of resetting when it comes to the LFO, or control voltage up and down all over the place. And that results in modulation pouring out all over the place. Envelopes which can be modulated in terms of their decay and size and shape, but also triggered into patterns. And then control voltage, which can be controlling all sorts of different things in different interesting shapes and ways, or it can be turned into notes. And so from this crazy and overly complex look of a device, you get notes, you get envelopes, you get modulation, and you get patterns and rhythms and awesomeness. And then when it's going, you can change it on the fly. You can mute out different tracks, you can bring stuff in, take stuff out, drop it in, drop it out. It's really quick to kill a channel and then rebuild it as something else. You can develop ideas, you can offset things against each other. It's just an enormous amount of fun to play with within a space. So first off, the LFO. Now something I'd like to point out at this point is that you can see this light here. See this flashing away? This is representing the chosen channel. So if I go to a different channel, it will show something else of what's going on somewhere else, if something else is going on. And that is brilliant, except that if you're anywhere other than angled beneath, you can't see it. If you go forward a little bit, it completely disappears under the knob. It's just a little thing. I find that a bit annoying. Thanks, Bastl, for that. But I will try to point out these things as we go, because while this is an incredibly useful module, it struggles, or at least I struggle with its design elements. Its user interface is a bit of a battle, which you'll probably see as I'm fudging my fingers around the place. Anyway, back to LFOs. Here we got it going nicely. See, it's coming out of A, no problem. That is also reflecting what's going on. Can you see that? Not quite, just about, but if I see that LED there, that is also representing what's going on. So you have it reflected here and here, which is nice. So you can always see what's going on, even if you can't see what the main one is doing. So this is now being shown on our scope. Now we have lots of different options. These two big buttons down here become absolutely vital. In fact, your whole time is spent with these two buttons and this thing here. This controls the rate as far as an LFO is concerned. So really just as a device of LFOs, you know, like a Batumi, you know, as a 4-channel LFO. This is a 6-channel. I know, it looks like a 4-channel. Honestly, it's 6 channels down here. It's a 6-channel modulator, 6 channels of LFOs. You could just use it for that. But using some of these special buttons here, I can repurpose these buttons into other things. So you can see on here, in the silver, there's different shapes. If I hold shift, it would tell me what shape the LFO is. So you've got your ramping down, you've got your ramping up, you've got your regular up and downy one, and you've got your square. At the moment they've all got a little bit of slew on, because that's another function down here which is F, and that turns on and off the smoothness of things. If I turn that off, it becomes a straightforward square, yeah? Turn the F back on, and I've got just a little bit of an edge to everything, a little bit of a curve. The other option I've got is E, which is randomization or sample and hold of some description, which can also be either sort of smoothed out all over the place. If you turn F off, it then becomes, I didn't mean to say F off, but if you do turn F off, you get the squiggly lines of your more traditional sample and hold idea. So in terms of automation of your LFOs, you can control the rate and you can record a reset. So all of it's done with the two buttons down here. It is synced to clock, or it is very much a clockable and dividable device. So everything is running in a loop which you can absolutely define. We're not entirely sure what that is at the moment, because I'm just running kind of an LFO which could be anywhere, run into anything. So I'm not going to worry about that for the moment. But if I want to record the rate, changes in rate, I just hold the record button and move. Like that. And it's there. It's brilliant. If I want it to go away, I double tap record and it's gone. For this button, the shift or the trigger button, if I hold record, I can then reset the LFO by tapping this. And then that will be recorded in as well. And I can have both going at once if I wanted. That's totally marvellous. Now, as you're probably getting bored of this particular note, what I'm going to do is kind of skip ahead to the CV side. We'll come back to envelopes in a minute. So in CV mode, your knob essentially controls the amount of voltage coming out. You can have that to be anything you like. It's just a voltage generator. If I hold the record button, I can record that. Now at the moment it's sort of put itself into blocks. That's because I didn't have the smoothing function on with the F. So if I hold shift and press F, that'll turn the smoothness back on and I'll have a more of a smooth experience. Obviously that's a useful, incredibly useful function. However, it has another function which I want to get to now, which is that it has the ability to generate notes. And it does that through another shift. This one here is quantization. You turn that on and then you've got these three buttons here become a scale selection. You've got major, diatonic or something, pentatonic or some sort. In the manual there's a big long list of the combination of these buttons which will generate all sorts of different scales. But if we just stick it on pentatonic, that seems quite simple. And now we've got it sort of stepping as it quantizes itself. However, we're actually going into a filter. What we want to do is go into an oscillator. So what I'm trying to get to at this point is, hey, let's generate a tune. So this is now going to go into the voltage per octave input on the oscillator. And there's your quantization settings. I can change that. Make it a bit more bluesy. Or a bit more all-encompassing. I quite like the pentatonic myself. So to turn this into a tune, I hold record. And it does its thing. It's a little bit theremin-like. It's not as if I can pick individual notes particularly easily. You're just sort of like dialing in a bit of a thing and a bit of a thing, and off it goes, a bit of a thing. That's great. And you can scale that then with the rate knob, or transpose it if you like, up and down. So that's great. Now what we want to do is go to channel B. So let me wire this in a bit more permanently. So I've got the tune going constantly out of A into the oscillator. I'm then going to select channel B. Have this go into the filter in order to create a bit of an envelope. Now there's different envelopes I can choose. There's this first one is your regular sort of up and down envelope, as you saw. B is a bit more of a variable one in shape. Like so, a bit more shark toothy, shark finny. C is a reverse. And D is just kind of a gate. So let's go back to our original style envelope, and all I want to do is tap in a few of those. I mean, this personally for me is absolutely brilliant, because so often I'm trying to generate some kind of trigger sequence in order to pump into an envelope to run the filter in a rhythm other than every note every time, and this just does that brilliantly. So what I've got to do is hold record and then hit the shift. Like it, double tap. to record the decay by holding record and doing the knob thing. And anything you do overwrites what was previously there. Now what might work this a little bit better is if we were to kick in a bit of a kick drum. So let's stick this into F for no reason. So I've selected F, of course, put it into envelope mode. Build E into something else. So select E. And that then brings us to a sort of another feature, which is the mute button. Because now we've created ourselves a little bit of a groove. We can hold mute, take out the drums, bring them back in again, just like a boss. Let's go to D, get rid of whatever's in there, plug that into something weird here. Now with D, what we're going to do is actually load a pattern, because in here is a whole bunch of patterns ready to go. Now for that you have to hold both buttons, then you select the bank that you want. So this is going to be some kind of hi-hat, so I want bank D, I think, and then I can sort of turn that in. And then that puts that in for me. But there are patterns for also snares and kick drums as well. So if I select my kick, which I think is on F, if I hold both of these, select A as a pattern, I can dial that in. Go to F, select B as a pattern, I think. Go back to D. If I don't want what the pattern is, I can kill it. Look at me here, fiddling with this knob, when I could be automating it. I've got another channel. Let's select C, get rid of anything that's in it. Select it to CV. Put this into the CV control on whatever it was I was fiddling with. Decay, I think it is. like so. And I can record that in. I can make this one a little bit longer. Okay, so all I do is hold record. Ta-da! That's pretty cool. That is really it. I mean, there's a lot more to it. There's all sorts of things you can do. The manual seems to be never ending. There's CV inputs on channels E and F, and there's also a meta input which allows you to control whichever ones you like. Now that really is to do with sort of scaling and attenuation, because I mean all the LFOs that are coming out of here, they all come out at full fat, full whack. There is a unipolar bipolar button, so you can cut things in half to make them just unipolar rather than the whole positive negative thing. But otherwise there's no way to just scale back or attenuate an LFO. But you can do that via the CV input. You stuff something else in and then you can turn that down a bit. I mean, otherwise, use something like a molten motion meter to control the amplitude of your LFOs. But otherwise, it's pretty full on in that regard. You can save stuff, you can copy and paste patterns, you can create your own patterns and save them. The way that the clock division works, you hold record and it tells you whether you're on 64, 32, 16, 8, 4 or 2. So you can reduce something down just to almost like a single tick to very quickly put things in, or you can leave it longer so that you can adjust more. So for instance, what we're on B at the moment is what we're really hearing. So if I get rid of that automation, so it's now just triggering. If I hold shift, it tells me we're on 32. No, that's not right. If I hold record, it tells me we're on 16 beats. If I put that up to 64, we've now got a lot more space in our loop, so I can get rid of whatever that was doing. But now of course I can't hear anything, so what do I need? Let me put the kick back in, just so I've got some kind of reference. So let's put something in. It's just so bleeding infectious. You just want to keep doing it, keep moving stuff about, keep modulating things, constantly wanting to change it. 6 channels suddenly doesn't become enough. I'm going to need 2 of these side by side at this rate because I want to run other things. I mean, very quickly using 3 channels for percussion, 3 channels for A monosynth, you've got one running the tune, one running the envelope, one running the VCA potentially, although I've ignored this at this point. I could very easily take this out of here and turn it into control over the VCA on the veils here. So there you have it, the Bastl Instruments Neo Geo. What an extraordinary fun time that is. There's more to it than what I've shown. There's all sorts of intricacies and depths and things you can go to in order to do cross modulation or CV in and out of that into something else. You know, whether it's quantization or resetting of LFOs, or of rating, of scaling, of changing, of triggering, of all sorts of stuff. But what really speaks to me is its ability to quickly and easily generate a groove. It's just a little groove box. It's a groove machine. And I don't think that comes across very much. I mean, you look at it and go, you know, it looks complicated. It looks like I'm going to have to spend a lot of time reading the manual. And actually, you do, because you have to work out what the second level things are and what buttons I have to hold in order to press the thing. And it is easy to find yourself tripping up and accidentally erasing a track or cancelling something or changing it into something which you don't quite understand. Why is that now not doing the thing that I thought it, you know, that there are avenues and pathways in here that are going to lead you to nowhere. And it comes with a certain amount of frustration. You know, my major criticism of the whole thing, which is awesome, is that the interface can mess you about. You know, it's like it's a party animal, but it's also a bit of a drunk and can end up getting a little bit punchy when it likes to, if you're not really treating it right. But if you can get past that, if you can find your way in and kind of vibrail, start feeling where these buttons are and what the combinations are, then it's going to give you a heck of a good time. The button knob combo, it works well. I just wish it was bigger, wider, less fiddly. I feel that it's sometimes difficult to really grab hold of exactly what's going on, and in some ways too easy to trip up. But it's just practice, it's muscle memory, it's getting the hang of the thing. Because, I mean, the lights and the design of it is quite exquisite, and I love the way it fits into their other modules, the iCarry, the pizza, the Bastl, you know, all that kind of stuff. All has this similar vibe to it, this seriousness. But in some ways, with the Neo Trinity, it's a little bit out of place because this is a very, very fun thing. And if it looked a little bit more fun, I think it would reach out to people more than perhaps it does. Because when I first got this, I looked at it and went, oh, I ain't got time for this. And I put it back in its box on a shelf for about a month. And Patrick at Bastl kept saying, oh no, plug it in, it's really great. No, it's a lot of fun, honestly, I promise. And I'm going, oh, is it a lot of fun? Oh, I don't know. I mean, look at all these layers and levels, and it looks like I'm going to have to hold this to do this. Oh, I don't know. All right, I'll give it a go. So I plugged it in, and after a little bit of fiddling about, a little bit of shenanigans, it's went, oh, I get it. Right, I can I can record this, I can turn it into notes, I can put a kick drum in, I can put a hi-hat in. Oh, that was easy. It's really easy. It just doesn't look it. It looks complicated. But heck, when you get in there, it's a barrel load of fun. I mean, this is a permanent resident now in my rack, in my array of various bits and pieces, because if nothing else, it's providing LFOs and synced LFOs. And synced and quantized LFOs, which can be really, really useful. Or I can just pump in a little bit of modulation on something anywhere, at any time, and it's going to go. The only thing I've got to get into my head is I've just got to learn a few of these combinations so that I know which button to hold, so that I know which button to press. And that little bit of learning is going to get me a long way. because I want to know how to sync it. I want to know how to quantize it. I want to know how to make sure that lands absolutely on the beat. And those things are within there and within grasp once you've learnt how to do them. But as I say, as envelopes, as LFOs, it can be plopped into any rack and absolutely fulfill its worth. But underneath there is a lot more potential for running bigger ideas and crazier things. Or in just a little system like this, it's the perfect thing because it's a sequencer, it's envelopes, and it's LFOs. It's a modulation monster, or an automatable modulation hub, as it says here on the front, which is what it is. But that belies what's beneath, which is this pumping, throbbing heart of a disco king. It has a groove. It wants to play. It wants to run stuff. You know, you're thinking, oh, yeah, automation, it feels serious and complex. And it's not. It bangs out a beat, it bangs out a tune, it envelopes your filter. You're having a flipping techno party just from this fella here. So I think in any situation, this should be an early buy. If you're starting out in modular and you've got a filter and an oscillator and you've got a VCA, then this is probably going to be your next port of call, because it does the envelopes, it does the modulation, and it lets you start to create tunes and create a bit of a groove. It's a fantastic module. It's a starter. It's an entry drug. It's going to draw you in and make you expand and push your system out, and it's going to make your system sound fantastic, which is the key. Because often when we're starting off in Eurorack, we've got a note, we've got a bass line going just about, and it's meandering about. You've plugged in a Turing machine, which is excellent. Oh, I've got to get a quantize through that. Oh, now finally I'm making a tune and it's wobbling about. Oh, I've got to get some envelopes, and I've got something to trigger that. And you go on, and this ballooning happens. Whereas with something like this, it fills so many functions that you can just focus on having oscillator, a filter, a bit of percussion. This, and then you start looking at effects and other ways to make things interesting, because this is doing all of that utility which we're always scrabbling around trying to fill up our space to achieve. And that's a little bit of genius with this. It can fulfill so many roles. So yeah, Neo Trinity, slightly overstuffed, slightly complex fiddling, but phenomenally useful, powerful, and is absolutely going to live every day in my system. There you go. Hope that was useful. In the meantime, go make some tunes.